Hi, my name is Charles Way. Today we're going to talk about the COVID-19 final project for Class BA513. Today we're going to talk about the countries with the highest COVID cases. I'm going to show you a couple of world map plots of cases and deaths. I'm going to discuss a little bit if population size affected the spread, and discuss a little bit about if the economy affected the spread. So what I wanted to show first is the top 50 confirmed countries with COVID cases. And this is going to give you a better idea, a little bit of a better idea of where the numbers are. So as you see, China starts out with the highest numbers. But as you see slowly starting about March 5th, the other countries start to really gain. Italy, Germany, France, and Spain. A lot of Europe becomes affected. And out of curiosity, I looked at how population affected the COVID spread. So what you see is China, India, US, which has the highest populations. Uh, for the most part, when it comes to the US, the affected rate was significantly higher than China and India, mainly because of population. What is surprising though is that with the middle population, as you see with Spain at 46 million, Italy at 60 million, France with 65 million, and Germany at 83 million. So they had the highest affected rates per population. So looking at that, I wanted to kind of see how the data plotted out on a world map. And so you'll see, starting in January, all the way through March, the areas around China really didn't get affected. But what you'll see starting in March is all of a sudden mainland Europe starts to be affected, and so does the US. When it came to deaths, I wanted to look at the same thing. So when I looked at the deaths, that information provided roughly the same mirror as the confirmed cases. So you see around March 8th, you start to see that the European countries had a lot more deaths over time. So I was curious and I wanted to do a scatter plot. So what I found is that basing confirmed cases and population, it didn't seem like population density or population size affected the number of confirmed cases if you look at the p-value of 0.052167. There are a couple of outliers between the number of cases and also the size of the population, as you see here with China and India, and then with the number of cases is Spain, Italy, France, and Germany. Now, the outliers weren't tested for outliers, so it's just kind of curiosity. So when it came to curiosity, I wanted to look at confirmed cases and confirmed deaths. And what I thought about is possibly economics being a factor in the transmission of COVID. So you'll see this is a plot of world map of deaths and confirmed cases overlap with GDP. So you'll see here with the confirmed cases, Europe had a significant amount of confirmed cases, where Italy's world rank is 9, Germany's world GDP rank is 4, France world rank is 7, and Spain is 14. United States being number 1 with 92,000 cases, whereas China was number 2, but they only had 68,000 cases. Japan number 3 at 6,000 cases, and India at number 5 with 8,000 cases. So with looking at that, it kind of made me wonder a little bit more is how much did economy become a factor? So the next thing I tried to do is I plotted out GDP versus the number of confirmed cases. And what I found is a p-value that's a little bit more significant, 0.0001. Now, all of this could be just happenstance that the p-value is significant, but it does make you wonder if the number of of confirmed cases could be affected by how much GDP the country has. And then again, same thing with deaths. P-value is a little bit higher, so there's not as much significance, but it could be a factor in here. And with the p-value of 0.0167, again, we have the same outliers of US GDP, and Italy, and China. So after that, it drove my curiosity to wonder if imports imports and exports, being that China, the start of where the virus seems to have started, did affect the amount of cases, being that GDP and the amount of imports could be a correlating factor. So I found the information for the number of dollars being imported by country. And so you see, with a p-value of 0.001, there could be some significance to that theory that the number of confirmed cases is affected by the dollar value of the imports and just overall imports. And so the last chart that I wanted to show was a box chart showing GDP and the import money. So you'll see the number of cases is a color, and then the size is going to be the import dollars. And so you'll see the import dollars of China is significantly high. And then the countries hardest hit were the US, Germany, Spain, France, and Italy. And so you'll see, and even the United Kingdom is starting to creep up. So you'll see that there could be some factors of economy that have caused the spread of the disease a little bit faster in economies where import is a little bit higher. So in conclusion, based on the scatter charts that we saw, we can assume possibly the following. Increased population size probably did not have a huge effect on the spread of the virus. However, being that the pandemic is still ongoing, those numbers can change pretty quickly. And although it could be coincidental, the few things were found to be true. That the higher the GDP, the more cases of COVID, and the higher the number of imports showed also the greater number of cases. So some of the limiting factors is, of course, more tests needs to be done because as of right now, it's very basic and there's not a whole lot of statistics behind it. And the data, like I was saying earlier, is still currently being collected, and it could really change the outcome. And the last factor would be data reporting and testing could skew the data, being that some countries are not testing as much as others. Some countries are testing more. Some countries may not be reporting near as much as they probably should be. So those things all need to be factored in whenever we're discussing this. And so my references, of course, I use the data provided by the professor, and then also the references for the United Nations, the population, so the top population with both sexes from the UN, and then the top exporters and importers from the World Bank.